and he's directing cheap slasher. Cheap slasher. That's a mouthful for someone who does not know how to say those words. Hello, I'm back again with a monthly update video where I talk about the books and movies that I watched, the best ones that I did consume. I did finish 2 books. One of them I started in January. That is basically, like, that's sometimes the deal here, because I will start a book in 1 month and then I'll finish it the next month. And this particular book I had to spend about a month reading because yeah, we'll get into that. And as always, hello, my name is Frida. I am a horror writer and I make horror content here where I make movie reviews and talk about books that I read, and hopefully down the line, once I get into the flow of actually writing a lot more and like be consistent with that, I will be making more like writing content as well. But today we are talking about the books that I read and the movies that I watched in February. I really wanted to like this book. I have never heard of it, but I really liked the concept and I really like how the book looks. This book is How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig D. Louis. And very strange, but it was totally ruined at the end here. It looks like someone, when they opened the box of these books, the knife went a little bit too far down, so they like cut the book. So that's cool, I guess. But just like, look at this. With like the camera on the front here, that the book is kind of like its main character, kind of. I think I actually just gave this book 2 stars. It's probably my own fault for thinking this book was gonna be good, because it says how to in the title. Maybe that was like the first giveaway sign that this was gonna be more of a how the industry works. We're following Max, who finds this camera, and this camera filmed a very horrible incident at a movie set, and it wasn't supposed to happen, obviously. He thought that if I just, now that I have found this camera, I can use it to film my own movie. He wants these murders that are happening on screen to be actually real. So the way that he does this is that he casts people for these roles and they don't know that they are being cast into the last role of their entire lives. The concept, really cool, very fun, unique. It's really captivating the way that it's written. No, I'm kidding. Not the way that it's written, but the way that it looks. It sucks that it was boring. It's just like how the movie industry works and how they cast people, and like the horror elements were minimal, if not even like really present, in my opinion. Like there were some like things that led up to something that would be really scary. This is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, where he talks to the people that are like their souls are still like stuck inside the camera, so he like kind of talks to them, and like those scenes could have been so cool and so fun, but it never captured me. It never ever captured me, and that's really sad because, like I've said many times now, the plot is really cool, but the execution is lacking, and maybe I'm just not the target audience. Like, I can admit that maybe this is not the book for me, but I thought it was disappointing, considering it's got the word horror movie and like the word horror in the title. I was kind of thinking it was going to be really scary. As a horror lover, the term final girl, it makes me feel so fucking stupid that I have never like comprehended that whole terminology. I'm sorry. So maybe this was a good book for me to read though, so I could kind of like learn a little bit, because it talked about tropes, and he was, the way that he made the movie in the script and stuff, probably interesting to someone who loves that, and I love movies, so yeah. This is obviously, when it comes to all books, books are subjective, but in the frontier it says that Keelan Patrick Burke, Bram Stoker award-winning author, says, "I tore through it in a single sitting." I could never. We're built different, me and Keelan. And then the second book that I read it because I listened to it. It was an audiobook. I haven't listened to an audiobook in so long. Like the only thing that I will listen to is obviously music and also podcast episodes. The No Sleep podcast, which is my favorite podcast because it's fictional stories. So that is kind of an audiobook, but this is like chapters and many, many hours of the same story. This was the book Before and After. Before and After. Yeah, by Andrew Shanahan. So it was 7 hours and 12 minutes long. But I gotta say, I cannot believe that it actually managed to fill 7 hours of content with this idea. The best-selling sci-fi thriller that blends healthy living and lots of dying. Ben Stone is terrified. He's terrified because he weighs 601 pounds, which is this in kilos, and needs his right leg amputating. He's terrified because a crane will shortly lift him from his fourth floor flat and lower him 44 feet to an ambulance waiting below. He's terrified because he hasn't been outside in 9 years. And he doesn't know who will look after his beautiful dog. He needn't worry though, because the world is about to end. So this is a apocalyptic story with a very unlikely main character. So it says that obviously Ben is super duper overweight and he's set to, like, on the day that the apocalypse starts, he's supposed to be transported to the hospital because his leg is infected from diabetes, and the people that are supposed to be helping him get down, all of them just disappear because they get a 911 call, and then, he's just left there to defend for himself. And obviously because of his big, big body, he can't, like, really do much except just sit there. And because he's got so much, literal fat on his body, and he doesn't have any food in the house, he's actually surviving because his body is, like, kind of just like using what it's got, it's using the fat that he has and surviving by proxy, just being there, not doing much. The book is kind of told in two perspectives, which is the same perspective, just many years apart. So the chapters are kind of like everyone starts with when it's from and how much he weighs. So sometimes it says that it's 200 days before, or sometimes it says, 60 days after. So you know what happened many years ago in his life and then also currently. Really cool idea. And the fact that Ben is just such an unlikely hero who just, like, buckles up Buttercup and understands if he doesn't save himself, no one will. And he's got this little dog that's called Brown, and she's kind of like his motivation, because he knows that if he dies, who's gonna take care of her? The flashback scenes and more of the, like, actual, like, emotional stuff are the things that I like the most. The action part of the book I was not really bothered with at all, but the final scene in this book was so beautiful. I cried. So you may ask what happens with Ben, but I'm not gonna tell you because I really do recommend this one. It was really easy to just, like, listen to, but it's probably really good written out too. I think I'm actually more a visual reader. I think I like reading more than I like listening. You don't really follow a person like this and, like, see his life, and I think, without having done any research myself on the author or anything, he must have done a lot of research, or maybe he knows someone who struggles with, like, being obese. This is just, like, a really accurate representation of this life and what struggles he deals with every day with his body being so big, and, like, the physical, like, actual, like, source that he gains from being overweight, and the mental struggles. I'm not gonna spoil this, but he does talk to someone, and, like, that whole trope I really, really enjoyed, and I hated that that part just, like, was just a chapter or something. So I kind of wanted that to be expanded on. So now we're getting into my favorite movies of February. I don't feel like I watch a lot of movies actually, even though I did watch 23 movies. It's something about if I don't watch a movie every day, I don't feel like I watch a lot of movies. The first one is the original Carrie movie, and you probably know the story of this, but I'm gonna go over it anyway. Withdrawn and sensitive teen Carrie White faces taunting from classmates at school and abuse from her fanatically pious mother. When strange occurrences start happening around Carrie, she begins to suspect that she has supernatural powers. This is actually Stephen King's first full-length published novel. And there's a whole story around that too, like he not being happy with the script and then just throwing it in the garbage, and then his wife fished it out and said you have to finish this, and if she hadn't done that we wouldn't have this movie. I remember reading it when I was like 18. I don't know why I didn't wind up watching the movie, but I'm really happy it did now because this is a 5 out of 5. The story is so classically told and the characters are so believable, and it's got so many like goofy things. There's like a wardrobe dress up scene where the guys are trying on their like suits, and that's so goofy. The premise of the story is that Carrie gets her period, her first period, and the girls are making fun of her. And she, because she's just like screaming, she doesn't know what's happening because her mom never told her what a period is and what's happening, because she thinks that she's freaking dying, yo. Her mom is really religious and she kind of like projects her own thoughts and experiences when it comes to sex and pregnancy onto her daughter. Then Carrie is invited to the prom, and that's where shit actually really goes down. And I'm not gonna talk about that if you don't know, but if you probably do know, right? It's such a classic story and it's got so many elements. It's got like the supernatural elements with her believing that she has these powers, and also combining that with actual female rage. And then we have a mini series, which kind of falls out of the movie, list thing. You should 100% set off 6 hours a day and just watch the whole thing. It left us on a hook every episode, so I had to finish it. And it's a new German miniseries called Cassandra. A family moves into a vintage smart home and discovers that it's under the control of a virtual assistant who will stop at nothing to keep them there. I really want to go to this house because even though it's built in the 70s, this family is from the present day, so they moved there with smartphones and stuff. So this is the smart home of yesterday. So we're following a family of four, a woman, a man, and their daughter and son. And they are now getting used to this new life, and now they just want to start anew, which is the typical starting point of every single horror movie ever, especially with haunted houses and stuff, even though this isn't a haunted house. Or is it? I don't know. I cannot spoil because you have to watch this. Cassandra, the virtual robot, is so delicate. Like her, everything is just like it's everything. And she's everywhere. She knows what happens in this house everywhere at all time. She's never sleeping. She knows where you are, when you pee, how much you pee. Even though if you don't understand a single word of German, it has subtitles. So you should be able to handle it because you probably watch Squid Game and that's not in English, so and you handle that. So you can handle this. This also has female rage, I gotta say. Like we are on a streak with female rage this month. We got the male version of that in the two next movies, actually. The next movie I watched was A Different Man, starring Winter Soldier. Aspiring actor Edward undergoes a radical medical procedure to drastically transform his appearance. But his new dream face quickly turns into a nightmare, as he loses out on the role he was born to play and becomes obsessed with reclaiming what was lost. I thought this movie was going to be a lot more like The Substance, because I thought it was going to be a lot of body horror, and that was going to be like a really big part of the movie, but it just happened. And I do understand how it kind of resembles The Substance, because it's got a little bit of that factor with like two versions, kind of. So it's not a spoiler to say that Edward, played by Sebastian Stan, he was born deformed, and then along comes Oswald, who is struggling with the exact same face that Edward used to have. But now Edward sees that Oswald is so confident in the person that he is now, so liked. He has, you know, friends and family, and not afraid to show who he is and tackle his struggles head on every day, because he doesn't see them as struggles. He's just like living his life because he doesn't know what life without this is, which Edward does, which is so interesting. And now this is the maliest, ragiest movie that I've seen in a hot minute, and it is Speak No Evil. When an American family is invited to spend the weekend at the idyllic country estate of a charming British family they befriended on vacation, what begins as a dream holiday soon warps into a snarled psychological nightmare. This stars none other than James McAvoy, and his character is called Patty. Like, with a name like that, you just know something is off. And he plays the role of a deranged, in your face guy so well. Like, this person exists 1000% everywhere, that are so stubborn that they, like, the people around them, when they try to talk to them, or like calm them down or have a different opinion, that's not going to be taken well at all with this person, because they are, you know, I said he's a psychopath, a narcissistic psychopath who just does what he knows is best. So this felt so real because of that, because this character just like felt like such a well made character. They go along really well. They are just like two families just hanging out, but the new family, you know, visiting these people, see that they have like a very different way of like both raising a child and also living, and way of speaking, and everything is just like more, you know, I feel like this is maybe more of a take on how Europeans can act in the eyes of an American, if that makes any sense. Because I think there's a lot of like prejudice against how Europeans can act, more like loose. There were some plot holes here and some really like rookie mistakes from Patty and his family when it comes to, you know, what this family then discovers is actually happening in the house. But the real villain was the stuffed animal of this kid. Why can't you just leave it behind? Girl, you're putting your entire family in danger because you are a little biatch. So that's everything I have this time. I have had my mind set on something completely different this month, which is a really, really big change in my life, which is happening in about 2 months, and that's why I've been focusing on that. I'm really excited about that, and you will probably know about it once everything is set in motion. What was your favorite movie or book from February? I'm really interested in seeing what other people are taking in. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!